Hi there, I'm Laurel, and this is Green Roots Genealogy. Okay, so we are here today to talk about same name people. So we're going to go through a case study where I show you how to differentiate between same name people, and it's important to do that so that as we extend the line, we're researching the right person. So anytime you're building a family tree and connecting records automatically, they're often matched on name and place. So you'll find that in many cases there are multiple individuals that exist, even within the same area with the same name. So we need more than a name. We need identity markers to differentiate between same name people so that we know that we are researching the correct ancestor. Okay, so we're going to take a look at the case of Vincent J. Hudson. He married and lived in Pulaski County, Kentucky, and he was my third great grandfather. This is a photo of his daughter, Sarah J. Hudson. And right below that is a picture of my mother. And this would have been her great-great-grandmother. Great-grandmother, actually, sorry. I had traced through DNA her connection to the Taylor family who moved to California. And so Sarah Hudson is an ancestor of that family. And these are my two siblings here. So Sarah married an English immigrant named Robert Flintoff Taylor. She lived on a farm in Illinois for most of her life. So we started with some initial information about Vincent. And this came from a family researcher of the Taylor family. So they had been researching Sarah and Vincent. Now, Vincent's father had also been identified in family trees as Daniel Hudson. And so when I began to research Vincent to prove his lineage, I found out that there were two Vincent J. Hudsons, and one was born in 1815 and one was born in 1817, and they both married in Pulaski County, Kentucky. So I had to study them to see if they were the same person, and if not, to identify what was different between the two Vincents. So we call we're going to call those identity markers. So identity markers are the differences, beyond that age, beyond that place, beyond that name, even that middle initial, that are going to help us identify the differences between these two people. So your ancestor is more than just their name. They're their family, their life events, their occupation, their land purchases, and so on. So you want to make sure you understand all your ancestors' identity markers because you'll find more often than not that you are going to run into a doppelganger, at least in terms of name and place, as I found here. So let's start by looking at this 1860 census record. And this record is from Clark County, Illinois. And this is where Vincent J. Hudson settled with his family, and also his daughter Sarah, who's not on this particular census record because she had already married Robert Taylor and was also living in Clark County, I believe, at the time. So we can see Vincent J. Hudson here. He's 45 years old, so he's born in 1815. He's a farmer. He did not own any real estate. That's what this blank box is. But he did own some personal estate, and he was born in Kentucky. And we can see Susan, probably his wife, a little bit younger, also from Kentucky. And then we can see who we believe are 6 children here, aged 4 to 24. So we know their names, we know their ages. So these are identity markers for Vincent J. Hudson, his family group, and they're going to turn out to be probably the most important thing when we compare these two Vincent J. Hudsons. What you'll see here is that Vincent J., Susan, born in Kentucky, Alexander, possibly their oldest son, also born in Kentucky, and the rest of the children not born in Kentucky, born in Missouri, born in Illinois, born in Arkansas, and then back to Illinois again. Okay, so I also had a marriage record for Vincent J. Hudson, and I found out that he did indeed marry Susan Reed. So Susan on the census record is likely his wife, and they married in 1833. And the witness was Thomas Reed, so that's a key clue to another ancestor, possibly the father of Susan Reed, and we can use that to extend the line of Susan. Okay, so when I began to research Vincent J. Hudson to document his father, I found another Vincent J. Hudson in Pulaski County, Kentucky. And I found him on the 1870 census. Now we're going to look for all the census records for both Vincent J. Hudsons. But this particular person, this is not the same census that we were looking at for the other Vincent J. Hudson. This is 10 years later. So, but this person was born in 1817, is also a farmer, and he also does not own property, and he was also born in Kentucky. But he has a different family. He has Pamelia is his wife. She was born in Virginia, and what's really key here is he has 5 children, and they were all born in Kentucky, where, our Vincent J. Hudson was perhaps a tenant farmer. For some reason, he was moving around to different states. Okay, before we find all the census records, let's take a moment to look for a marriage record for the other Vincent J. Hudson. And I just want to see, I want to make sure that we have their marriage record. That also will help us differentiate them by having those separate records. Although, potentially Vincent J. Hudson, something could have happened to Susan and he could have married Pamelia, but from what we know now, he was with Pamelia in 1870. So let's see if we can find an earlier marriage record for them. Okay, so I want to show you something called the Family Search Wiki. And if you haven't seen this yet, this is an excellent reference source. So what you're going to do is you're just going to Google Family Search Wiki, and after that, you can include the place that you want to research. So you can research the county level. They do have wikis on states, countries, and other locations. So this is a great place to reference when you're researching a particular area. So we're going to be digging more into Pulaski County to find out more about Vincent J. Hudson. Both of them and perhaps his origins. So we want to know more about Pulaski County. It was organized in 1798. We can see it was formed from some other counties that were part of the earlier structure of Kentucky. And then we can see the neighboring counties, which are important as we're doing searches. We may find that they've moved to another county, or maybe that county boundaries have changed. Also have the beginning dates for all the different key record types that we're going to look at here. So, for example, marriage, which we're going to take a look at next, started in 1799. So hopefully we should be able to find a marriage record for Vincent and Pamelia. And then we should also be able to look at some probate and land records as well. And we'll talk a little bit more about those type of records if you haven't used those before. But right now I'm scrolling down and you'll see in this wiki there are all these different categories of genealogy records, and many of them are linked on here. They're online, and they may be available at Family Search, which is where we're going to go next. So I went down to vital records and down to marriages, and now I'm going to look at this Kentucky marriage collection, which is pretty extensive in terms of the years that it's covered. And this is going to bring me up to a search form. So that means this particular collection, it's indexed. And I'm just going to type in the name Vincent Hudson, and I am going to include the county. So if you don't have an account already on Family Search, this is an excellent genealogy site. It's completely free to use, so you just sign up for an account, and then you'll be able to search records. You'll be able to create trees, no cost at all, and then attach those records to your trees. Or if you want to use an offline software, you can. Some software you can actually connect directly to Family Search. There's some information here about this collection. Always good to know where it came from. So this particular collection came from many different county records, I believe. And so this page tells us all about the collection. Not a lot of information on this particular page, but in many cases you'll get some information that tells you where that collection comes from. Now, this one that we're looking at is a compilation. It's a transcription of records from county offices. Okay. All right, so we see two marriage records for Vincent J. Hudson at the top of our list. And one of them's the marriage to Susan Reed, which we just looked at. And now we do have this record for Pamelia Vaughn. So now we know definitely they did marry back in 1839, based on having as many children as he did. We would assume that unless there was another marriage and for some reason, it is possible that those still could have been the same person, but now that we have this marriage record, that really helps us differentiate between the two of them. Now, this is connected to images. The images, if you click on this, you'll need to find them. And in this particular collection, in most cases, you're looking at the collection to identify how it's organized, but in this case, it is alphabetical by surname and then by date. Okay, and then I believe I have a picture of this record, I don't, but what I did want to mention is that this particular record has a witness on it. And we're not seeing it on that index page, but if we clicked into the record and found it, then we would see that there was a witness on the record, and his name was Daniel Hudson. So now we have another important clue. This is the other Vincent J. Hudson. He's related, very likely, to Daniel Hudson. Could be his father, could be his brother. So we're going to watch out for that name as we do further research, because that's going to help us, again, differentiate between the two. Alrighty, so next we are going to look for census records, and we are going to look for census records for each year that Vincent J. Hudson would appear in those records. So knowing that we found the 1860 census for Vincent J. Hudson in Illinois, we found the 1870 for Vincent J. Hudson in Kentucky. Let's start with 1840. Knowing they married, in the 1830s, we should see an 1840 census for these people. So the way I like to search for censuses is on Ancestry. I do have a paid Ancestry account, but there are places where you can access Ancestry at no cost, I think sometimes at libraries. But I like to just go right to the search and go to the collection. So I'm going to go to the census collection, and then I'm just going to move through year by year and see what type of census records I can quickly find. So again, I'm just going to search for Vincent Hudson. And so I'll just enter his name there. And then we're going to get some filters over on the left. So we'll be able to look specifically at the years we want to find. So we want the 1840 census, and One of our Vincent J. Hudsons could have been in either Kentucky or Missouri if we look back on that 1860 census at that time. So let's start with Kentucky. So we've narrowed down to collections that encompass the 1840s, and now we're narrowing down by the location. And so we will look at Kentucky first. There it is. There's one record. Okay, so we have a Vincent J. Hudson here in 1840, but which one is it? Okay, so for one thing, we have, prior to 1850, the censuses don't list the household members, but they do show you counts of people by age range, by gender. And you can see this Vincent J. Hudson had one son under 5, but we know by this time we had Sarah, we had Alexander, so we had more than just one son under 5. So this may not be the right Vincent J. Hudson. I'm going to click into this record just to take a quick look here and see if he has any neighbors with interesting names. Let's see. So he is, I see a James Hudson right off the bat here and a Daniel Hudson. So remember what I had mentioned before about, here's Vincent J. Hudson. I mentioned before about Daniel Hudson being the witness to the marriage. So, that also helps us identify, they live near each other, of course, Vincent J. Hudson, maybe this is his uncle. Who knows, the other one who lives in Illinois. But this is a good clue that this is our Kentucky Vincent. Our Kentucky who stayed in Kentucky Vincent. All right. So there's the 1840 census for Kentucky. It was the only one we found in that state. Let's look at Missouri as well, because Cynthia Ann Hudson was born, in Missouri in 1842. So they may be in Missouri during the census. And here we go. We have now here's what happens with indexing sometimes and why you can't always find your ancestor in the census. But here is Vincent J. Hudson, or Vincent J. Hudson, in Rawls, Missouri. So let's take a look at this record. And so he has children about Sarah's and Alexander's age, and he has more than that. So there may be some other sons that may have moved out by 1860, which would not be unlikely. And okay, so here is our census record, and I'm seeing a Agnes and a Thomas Hudson on here. So those are names that I want to make note of. Here they are in Missouri with our Vincent. And where did he go here? His name, for some reason, is just always hard to pick out. There's Thomas, and he's at the bottom there. Okay. So here he is in 1840. So now we have the 1840 censuses for both of our Vincent, and now we're going to go on to 1850. Now, in the interest of time, actually, let me just show you how I search for this. So I'm going to clear this out, 1840s, and I'm going to go right into 1850s, and 1850s. And then I can look again. Now I'm not going to look in Missouri now. I do not believe he lived in Missouri at the time. He likely lived in Illinois. And here we can actually already see, well, this is an agricultural schedule, so this is not a census schedule, but this is going to show us if you own land, certainly where his residence was, which we already know that one Vincent J. Hudson was in Clark County, Illinois in 1860, and then it's going to tell us about livestock and produce that he owns. We are seeing an 1850 census for Pulaski County, Kentucky, so again, we would want to evaluate this to determine if that is the other Vincent J. Hudson, and likely it is based on the locations of where children were born. So To summarize here, I am going to show you what I found. So we looked at the 1840 census record. I did not find an 1850 census record for the Illinois Vincent J. Hudson, whether it was in Arkansas or Illinois or anywhere. But I did find an 1865 Illinois state census. So some states took special censuses. And so Vincent J. Hudson was enumerated on the state census. That's a tongue twister. And he had a male child and two females under 10 and a male under 10. And he lived right by Robert F. Taylor, who is my great-grandfather, or great-great-grandfather. Okay, here's that 1850 agricultural census that shows Vincent J. Hudson, and he is over here. He doesn't own any land. Don't think there are any other Hudsons on here, but again, I'm assuming this is the Pamelia Vincent Hudson. Okay, so let us now take a look at the Family Search catalog. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to go beyond our basic records. So what we want to do first is we want to find all the census records we can find. And in some cases we didn't find the census record. Could be an indexing error. We may want to take a look. It might be a bit difficult if he was in Arkansas. We won't know what county to look at, but we could certainly look around Clark County, Illinois, to see if we can find him in the census. We should find vital records. So marriage, you're usually going to find a marriage record in up through the 19th century for the most part, and you can look for death records as well, and that wiki page would show you if they were being recorded at that time. You can look certainly for gravestone images and cemetery records as well, and that Family Search wiki will help guide you towards those records. But a couple sources of records that are great for identifying family groups, and that's really what we want to do, is wills or probate records actually, and land records. So let's take a look here. And we're going to look next at the Family Search catalog. Okay, so when you open a Family Search account, you'll have access to all the records. So you have a search form for records, and then you also have a catalog. So a catalog is going to be a list of all the different record types based on a particular criteria. So often I will use place. If I'm going to look for a probate record for Pulaski County, Kentucky, I'm going to type that place in there. I'm actually going to start with Clark County, Illinois, and what I want to look for is a probate record for Vincent J. Hudson. And I want to use that to establish, maybe names of children, other relatives that might be connected. Okay, so I'm going to hit search here. And it's going to show me a list of the different record types. So I'm going to look for probate records. And, if you've worked with probate records, you probably know there's several different types of probate records. We'll start with a will, but we really also want to make sure to look at the inventory. The inventory is going to show if there was a sale of the estate, who purchased the items in the estate, who are often family members. And, there can be guardian records if there is an underage child in the household. When a parent dies, often a guardian is appointed. So great source of records to help you further your lines and connect families. In this particular collection, there's actually just two collections here, and one looks like a published work, may or may not be online. Anytime we have these county court records, they're often online or they're digitized at least. So I'm going to go into these county court probate records, and you'll see here there's several different groups of records here, several different collections, and next to each one is a little camera. So in Family Search, when you go into the catalog, you're going to look for the correct record collection, and then you're going to click on the camera to view the image. And usually there's going to be some sort of index in there that's going to help you find the record, the ancestor that you're looking for. Now in this case we have a little exclamation mark, and what that means is these particular records are locked. So if I want to see wills, I'm going to click on here and it's going to tell me these records are locked and that I need to go to a Family Search Center or an affiliate library. So if I just click here, I can look up an affiliate library, and the great thing is they are all over the place. So we can make a little field trip and see if we can take a look at the wills for Clark County and hopefully find one for Vincent J. Hudson. So I typed in my zip code here, and this is going to show me these are libraries that are Family Search affiliates, so we can access those records there. And then there's also Family Search Centers that I believe are affiliated with LDS, and you can also access the records there. Okay. All right, here. So I am going to take you, let me go back here and show you where we started. So knowing that we are going to have to take a road trip to get those Clark County records, I'm just going to go back to the catalog here and let's take a look at Pulaski County, Kentucky. Okay, so here we are in Pulaski County, and we're going to go to the probate collection once again. So here are the probate records, and we have a lot of abstracted wills. Those are going to likely be in the library and not available online, but possibly available through interlibrary loan. Those are always nice when everything's all typed up. But then anytime we have these county court records, they're usually digitized online. So we're going to start with the wills, and we're going to go into these will records, and we'll see what we have here. We do actually have a search here, so we could search for Vincent Hudson. But in this case, I want to look at the index because I want to see all the different Hudsons that are out there. And so I would click on this link here to go into the index. I'm just going to call that up because I have it over here. And you'll see here I found on page 13 of this index the Hudsons. So this was an alphabetical index. And then these are listed by year. And these are all the different wills that we have. So I'm not seeing a will for a Vincent J. Hudson. So, even the one who stayed in Pulaski County, Kentucky, I don't see him. The other Vincent J. Hudson presumably probably died in Illinois. I am seeing wills for Daniel Hudson, so remember his name has come up. It would be worth looking at those wills because that's going to tell us a lot about the other Vincent J. Hudson, and maybe it might name him, it might name brothers and sisters, and then, as we're going through looking at Hudson records, we can differentiate between the two families. I'm also seeing some records here for an Alexander Hudson, and I find that interesting because Vincent J. Hudson of Illinois, possibly his oldest son is named Alexander, so that could be an important name for the family. So I'm going to look up this record, and I'm going to go through the 6th book, and I'm going to go to page 361 here. So what I would do here is just scroll down to the 6th book. And then you really just have to find your way. You have to find where page 361 is. The image number and the page number are not the same thing. Okay, so back into my collection, and then over to book 6. So let me just show you where this is here. and then we're going to flip back over and we'll take a look at that will. So here's volume 6. Now note here, when you look at these, there's more than one volume, so right in the middle, volume 7 is going to start. You're going to want to look in the first half for that particular page, and you'll just click on that camera icon. Okay, so Alexander Hudson left a will on the 29th of January 1864, and he left property to his granddaughter, Lucy Rayborn. So there's a person we may want to put on our research list, and then we have the name of a wife, and then sadly a lot of times in wills we will find that just heirs are listed and not the actual names of the heirs. Now, if we go and look at the inventory and we look at anything that was sold, we may see some sons of or some children. Okay. But what I am actually going to do next is I'm going to look at the land records, and I did actually look at at some inventory for Alexander Hudson, and I saw a lot of I didn't see a lot of Hudsons, interestingly. Now, what that could mean is this is a different. This is not the father of Vincent J. Hudson. Now we're looking at him, thinking he might be related. Because his name's Alexander, but it could mean he had a bunch of daughters and they all have different last names. Okay, let me show you land records and how they're going to help our research here. So, again, I would look at that Daniel Hudson will as well and make sure that I make note of all his children if they're listed in the will. I would look at that inventory of Alexander Hudson and write down the names of everybody who purchased from the estate as well to see if those names come up again. And right now, Alexander Hudson's just a bit of a hunch. But let's take a look at land records and see what we can find out. Land records are a really important part of research, and often land transactions will take place between family members. And we saw on that will, Alexander Hudson owned land at his wife's decease. That land goes to the children. So after a certain point, they'll probably sell that land and parcel it up in some way, and we may see some record of that. Okay, so within the Pulaski County, Kentucky collection here, and again, I can also look at the land records in Clark County, Illinois, just to see what happened with Vincent J. Hudson, and he eventually purchased land, so we should have a record. You'll see there's some different types of records, but I'm going to start with the deeds for this particular time period. Land records were deeds. They were originally called warrants. And so within here, I have an index of grantors and an index of grantees. So I'm going to want to look for Hudsons in both of those indices. And when I did that, I found, quite a few land records. And that's why, as we continue to do this research and look to identify Vincent J. Hudson's father, it's going to be important to identify those family groups so we know which Hudsons are who. Okay, so I did find a record for Alexander Hudson that I want to show you that's in this collection. And it's in a deed. It's a deed of trust, but it has nothing to do with land. And this is an example of a little bit of family dirty laundry here. But what really jumped out at me here was this transaction took place between Alexander Hudson and Alex Reed. Now remember, marriage record, Vincent J. Hudson married Susan Reed. So likely, witnessed by Thomas Reed, likely this Alex Reed is related to Susan Reed, maybe an uncle perhaps. And we'll see what's happened here is there's unhappy differences that are subsisting between the said Alexander Reed and Louisa J., his wife. And so Alexander Hudson, and they go on here, it sounds rather challenging here, actually. But Alexander Hudson has been really appointed to be the representative between Louisa J. Reed and Alex Reed, and so they're separated. She wants nothing to do with them. Alexander Hudson is their facilitator based on this record. So this was an 1860 record. If Alexander Hudson is a representative for Louisa Jane Reed, she's probably related to him. So again, a couple more people that we need to research. Maybe we can find a marriage record for Alexander Reed and Louisa Jane Reed to see if, and maybe we'll see that Louisa Jane is related to Alexander Hudson. So another clue for our journey here. And so just to finish up here, what I did with all the information that I put together is I created a timeline for both Vincent J. Hudsons. So starting with when the first Vincent J. Hudson was born in 1815, and documenting all the different life events. I have the Illinois Vincent J. Hudson in blue, and I have the Kentucky Vincent J. Hudson in green. And here on this next page is where we can really see the differentiators between the two. So we know, one married in 1833, one in 1839, and then they had children, some born during the same year. So likely, this wasn't two families. We didn't have Vincent J. Hudson going back and forth between Illinois, Arkansas, Missouri, and Kentucky. So we do have two different people here. Okay, so next steps is we are going to research Alexander Reed and Louisa J. Reed in Pulaski County, Kentucky, probably Thomas Reed as well. Lucy Rayborn, I believe she is also in Pulaski County, Kentucky, not 100% sure on that. Agnes Hudson and Thomas Hudson. So I'd like to see them in Missouri. I'd like to see if they have any records in Kentucky as well. I'd like to see if they moved to Illinois with Vincent J. Hudson. That would be an important clue. I'd like to see if they're related to him. So I want to find all the census records, vital records, at least marriage, and then land records and probate records for these individuals. I can also further identify the two Vincent J. Hudsons. So I have a distinct family group for each. That's going to help me get through all those land records and probate records to find the ones that I want. So I'm going to visit a Family Search affiliate to find Vincent J. Hudson's will and land records. Civil War service records I'm going to look for. So those are good differentiators between the two Vincent J. Hudsons. They were both enumerated in the 1860s. Vincent J. Hudson was enumerated in Illinois in 1865. They may have served in the Civil War and they could have service records. And then I can also look at tax records. So if you haven't looked at tax records again or before, you can find those in the Family Search catalog, and they're great census substitutes. So, for that 1850 census or really any year in between, I can find the head of household on a tax record. And then I'm going to look in Rails, Missouri and Clark, Illinois, just to see where everybody was for each year. All right. Well, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure. And until next time, thank you for joining us today.